So, Austin, it's that time of year again. We're at the end of 2024, which means we have to talk about the past year in Star Wars.
And my God, what a fucking atrocious year it's been. Well, not atrocious, but it's been a long one for Star Wars. She's been dragged through the mud, I think.
True, but I feel like Star Wars is trying her hardest, so we have to give
Mm,
props where props are due.
yeah, I know, but trying your hardest still isn't enough sometimes. And speaking of not being enough, I have an idea for this Wayseekers holiday special to
Hmm.
keep up with the messy vibes of Star Wars in 2024.
Messier than usual.
Very messy. So why don't we get into it and get some holiday vibes in here? Oh, happy Life Day! We are
Happy
f***ing
Life
ridiculous.
Day. We celebrate a day of peace,
All right.
a day of harmony.
All right, enough. Welcome back to a special episode of This is the Wayseekers, a podcast that's supposed to be for Star Wars fans by Star Wars fans, but turns out it's for Star Wars fans by fucking lunatics who come onto their podcast dressed as Princess Leia and Chewbacca from the Star Wars Holiday Special. I'm here with my co-host Scotty Holiday, aka Princess Leia. Scotty, have you even seen the Star Wars Holiday Special in its entirety?
No.
I cannot say I have either. I've seen bits and pieces. I can't make it through. I'm going to be honest. It's how I know that there is a such thing as a Star Wars shill, because there are people out there that will look you dead in the face and say that the Star Wars Holiday Special is good and
I
that it's
mean,
good Star Wars.
I'm gonna watch it one of these days. It feels like a rite of
Hmm.
passage,
One of
but
these
like
days.
maybe not today. Not in 2024.
Maybe in 2025, right?
Yeah. So, Austin, you said this is a podcast for Star Wars fans by lunatics, but this is a podcast for Star Wars fans by the stars of Star Wars. I mean, we have me,
Oh,
Princess
okay.
Leia, we have Chewbacca here.
Yes.
So this is a very special episode of This is the Wayseekers. We came all the way from a galaxy far, far away to
Yes.
talk about 2024 and our top 5 moments of 2024. And I'm really excited to get into it. But first, we got to recap the year.
It's been a hectic year for Star Wars. I have not been shy on this podcast about how I have not been a Star Wars fan this year. Let's just say that, or not as big of a Star Wars fan as I've been in the past.
Well, you said you were retired too, so don't forget
Right,
that part.
exactly. And now I'm back. I feel like every Wayseekers episodes, I have to make that disclaimer where I'm like, by the way, I fucking hate Star Wars. Uh, but like you said, we're recapping the year for Star Wars. So we kind of started off with uh, stinker, if I'm being honest here. I was going to say a banger, but it was not a banger. It was announced on January 9th that
Mm,
The Mandalorian and Grogu is coming to theaters. The Mandalorian and Grogu film, directed by Jon Favreau, it's releasing on May 22nd, 2026. The first Star
mhm.
Wars movie in what? 7 years at that point, by the time it releases.
If it
And it's
really.
going to be fucking garbage.
Well, we don't know that for sure.
I mean, I guess not. I don't know. How do you feel about it? Are you excited for The Mandalorian and Grogu?
I'm excited about it. I saw the leaked footage that was shown. I
Hmm.
think it was at D23.
Yeah,
Um,
something
and
like that.
the leaked footage looked really, really good. But I'm like, why are we doing a movie and why aren't we just doing, another season? But
Right.
we did a
Season
whole
4.
episode about that too. So
Yeah. I think it's just a clear as day sign that The Mandalorian has just become something it was not originally intended to be. As someone who really loved season 1 and most of season 2, I liked the vibes of season 2 a lot and kind of that journey to get Grogu to Luke Skywalker. I don't
Mhm.
know. It's just there's so much there that was set up that I feel like The Mandalorian could have been amazing throughout all of its seasons, but it fell off. And this movie is just a reminder to me that The Mandalorian fell off. And it also just feels very rushed together. What we know about the production. It's like replacing season 4. Tamora Morrison has talked about that, like how there was a season 4. He was supposed to be in season 4. And now he says he doesn't know. It's just a lot where it's like, okay, what's
Mhm.
going on here? But, we'll see. There's always the chance that I'm going to be like, wow, they fucking pulled that off. But I think hell will freeze over first.
We'll have to wait and see. If it has Bo-Katan in it, you know I'm in. So,
Yeah.
well, moving on from the Mandalorian and Grogu movie announcement in February through May, we got the Bad Batch season 3, which was the final
Hmm.
season. We got a 3 episode premiere. It was 16 episodes. We covered like 10 of them on the pod. I covered the rest on my channel. I think it's safe to say that we both enjoyed the Bad Batch season 3.
Yeah, I definitely say so. I think I enjoyed the first half more than the second half of Bad Batch season 3, but overall, I really enjoy it. I actually kind of forget when I talk about Star Wars in 2024 that it actually released because there's a lot bigger stories that happen
Yeah.
this year and bigger things. But yeah, overall, I really liked it, and I'm still holding out for that follow up to the things that were
Oh,
set up in Bad Batch season 3, but
I was
we'll
gonna
see if
say
we
when you
ever get
said
that.
I was gonna say when you said the first half was good, did you forget episode 9 existed? The
Well,
Harbinger?
I don't know. Maybe not the first half, somewhere after the
The
first
half that
half.
we covered was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't love the way it ended, but I didn't hate it either.
Well, and it did kind of end abruptly. I don't know, and I think we talked about this. I don't think either of us expected it to be the final season, so
Yeah.
I thought maybe they were making way for something new, that's why they were wrapping this up, but
Mhm.
it's
We
now
haven't
the
got it
end
yet.
of 2024 and
Yeah. Well, maybe they'll surprise us. Like this next animated series that was released, surprisingly, I think they gave us like
Hmm.
2 or 3 weeks before they actually released it. They were like, by the way, we have this. So, Tales of the Empire, the 6-part animated series that, was kind of the successor to Tales of the Jedi. We had
Mhm.
a story about Barriss Offee and then a story about Morgan Elsbeth. They both got 3 episodes, obviously, and honestly, I loved the Barriss Offee episodes. The Morgan
Mhm.
Elsbeth's episodes, I think, are just as trash as the series she comes from.
Oh,
But that's just me.
well, in my opinion, in general, kind of, and we've talked about this off air with Tales of the Jedi versus Tales of the Empire, and
Hmm.
how like Barriss is kind of the Dooku of
Hmm.
Tales of the Empire, whereas
Right.
Morgan is like the Ahsoka
Yeah.
of Tales of the Empire. Because I loved Morgan's first episode when we learned about
Hmm.
her Night Sister past, her time with the Mountain Clan, which little
Yes.
did we know there's other covens on Dathomir, which was
Hmm.
super cool, especially one that uses like the light side of the Force, or at least that's what we assume.
Right.
And then it kind of fizzled out from there. I like Morgan Elsbeth and I like what she could be as a character. I just don't feel
Hmm.
like she ever got to be like her to her full potential.
Exactly.
And now she's dead. So,
Exactly. It's very it was just disappointing because when Ahsoka ended and Morgan Elsbeth died, it was like, that character felt like it had so much potential. And then it's announced that we're getting these shorts, and it's like, ooh, we might learn a little bit more about her backstory. In my
mhm.
opinion, we didn't really learn anything that we didn't know already. I was really excited when I saw Thrawn in the trailer. I thought that we were going to have the backstory to why
Yeah.
those two are even, connected. It just left me with more questions than I had before. And that wouldn't be an issue if I felt like we were going to see Morgan Elspeth again. But like you said, she's dead. So,
Well, speaking of stories that aren't getting conclusions, let's
oh,
talk let's talk about The Acolyte, which
oh
aired
Lord.
this June through July. We got our
Hmm.
2 episode premiere, 8 episodes, Leslie Headland plus a writer's room,
Hmm.
and I liked The Acolyte a lot. I enjoyed a lot of the stuff that it set up. I enjoyed the new lore that it brought into it, the amount of Jedi we got to see, more yellow lightsabers. It was
Right.
really fun. Um,
Yeah. I don't
but
know. As time goes on, I like it less and less. When it came out,
ooh.
I felt like I really enjoyed it, but as time goes on, I think more about the writing, the acting. Um, a lot of things fell flat. I feel like there's a lot, there's this whole aspect of kind of criticizing the Jedi Order, but
Mhm.
then the criticisms for the Jedi Order are set up within the show itself. It's not really anything that we've seen beforehand. So I
Mhm.
don't know, it just kind of falls flat to me in that sense where it could have been something really extraordinary, but it wasn't. Um, but I still think it should have got a season 2 because I don't know many shows that start off with a super banger season 1. And
Yeah.
I think that from what we know that was being set up, I think the show would have continued to find its voice and it
Mhm.
would have been great. But
Mhm.
as we know, The Acolyte was canceled, announced on August 19th. It was reported by Deadline first,
Mhm.
and their report just basically said that viewership dropped significantly. The first two episodes, it was in the top 10, then it fizzled out. It wasn't even in the top 10 until the finale, then it made its way to like 10th place. So,
It it
you
just
know,
feels so cursed to talk about.
I
Like,
know.
I'm thinking of all these things I could say and get into about this show, but I'm like, what can I say
Yeah,
that I haven't already said? I
right.
hope we get a season 2. I'd love to see the show get a chance to actually reach its full potential,
Mhm.
but as far as we know now, that's not gonna happen.
Yep.
So
Yep. And we'll see the consequences of that in future Star Wars stories, but whatever.
well, something a little more fun to kind of change the pace. We did get Lego Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy back in September, which was basically the Star Wars What If, but in
Mhm.
Lego. And it was 4 episodes. I didn't think it was episodic, but
Right.
it turned out to be episodic. And it kind of left room for a continuation of that story as well, which is something I'd be interested to see. I'm not a huge fan of the Lego specials, but I actually really liked this one. Did
Hmm.
you like this one? How did you feel?
I'm gonna be honest, Scotty. I would love to tell you, but I have no idea what the fuck happened in that show. You had a little watch party for it in your Discord, I remember, and I
Mhm.
showed up and just tuned out the whole time. I was making jokes with our friend Robin in DMs the whole time. We both tuned out. I have no idea what happened in that show. I have no desire to know what happened in that show. It's just not for me. But, for the people that it's for, I'm glad that they loved it. I'm glad you loved it.
Well, I don't know if I'd say I loved it, but okay, to be completely honest, like, I don't love the Lego specials, but I was like, "You
Mhm.
know what? I enjoy these when I watch them in a group setting." So, maybe
Okay.
if I do it with Discord and we watch it as a group, it'll be more fun, and it
Right.
definitely was, at least for me, but when I watch them myself, it's the same thing. I'm just like, 30 minutes into it, I'm like, "Okay, this is dumb."
Right.
So, it's always hit or miss.
Yeah. I liked the holiday special, and after that I didn't care for the Halloween one. I definitely didn't care for Beach Summer Vacation. So
What about Gamorrean Girls? Come
D
on.
goodbye. Goodbye. I have no fancy way to transition into this next one. The Rey movie was delayed and went through 3 writers. It was announced last year in 2023 at Star Wars Celebration that Daisy Ridley would be reprising her role as Rey in an upcoming movie. We have no idea what's happening with it. Disney took it off of its theatrical slate. It was slated
Ugh.
to come out in 2026. It's not coming out in 2026. We have no idea when it's coming out. We have no idea who's writing it. Um, so yeah, we have no idea if it's ever coming out. It could join the millions of projects that Lucasfilm prematurely announced and never came out with.
Well, one thing that does give me hope is I know they've said recently that, like, they think Rey is the future of Star Wars and the
Yeah.
future of Star Wars storytelling going forward. So I think it's gonna happen. I just
Hmm.
don't know when. And to be completely honest, while I'm excited for a Rey movie, I wouldn't be upset at a little bit more time still
Hmm.
between her trilogy or the sequel trilogy and then getting either her own movie or turning it into a trilogy itself. Because in
Right.
all honesty, she don't look any different.
Yeah, she doesn't. Unless they're gonna give her a haircut, I don't there's nothing really to differentiate, but
They'll
at the
shave her
same
head.
time,
Shave her head like Seer.
well, there you go. That
Give her
would be
some
a
face
change.
tattoos.
That would be a fucking change, but,
Yeah.
then again, when is Daisy Ridley ever gonna age? She probably won't. She's gonna be like Paul Rudd. When she's 60 years old, she's still gonna look the fucking same. So, they could always go back to their original plan of recasting her with an old lady, but I would not like that. It's either Daisy Ridley or bust for me. I don't
Yeah. I completely agree, and, like, maybe they'll also this will give them more time to get other actors from the sequels on to do it. Because like, I think
Mhm.
we both want Jedi Finn,
Yeah.
Poe, Rose, I want
Yeah.
Janna. I'd like to think there's a possibility of Force Ghost Ben Solo or bringing him back to life since he's a part of a
Mhm.
dyad. Dyads can do crazy things, but
Yeah.
we'll
We'll
see.
see what happens. I would honestly like for it to be less connected to the sequels. I think that,
Oh,
I
okay.
kinda would like to see a rebirth. And that's weird coming from me, the person that loves The Force Awakens and The Last
Yeah,
Jedi. But Rise of Skywalker really threw a wrench in things, and I don't think that the fandom is going to be super accepting of Rey coming back. I think that if she comes back, there needs to be something new and refreshing, and I think the least amount of connections we have to the sequel trilogy, the better. Hold for
okay.
Jedi Finn. I think that the movie would, severely suffer without Jedi Finn, no matter what.
Yeah, agreed, but something that has been new and refreshing
Yes.
is Skeleton Crew, which we just started recently. It started on December 3rd. It's
Hmm.
by John Watts. We got a 2 episode premiere, it's 8 episode series, and we're currently covering it on the podcast.
Yes.
So I'm sure at that point, y'all know we're really enjoying it,
Hmm.
and we hope to continue to enjoy it. It's doing new
Yes.
things, and it's been really refreshing. I feel like that's the best way to put it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I was someone who was not really in love with Star Wars when that show came out, when we restarted the podcast. But the first 3 episodes we've seen, and by the way, we're recording this while there's only 3 episodes out. I've loved it so far, and like you said, it's very refreshing, very new, and it's kind of rejuvenating my love for Star Wars. It's recharging my battery, and as I said in previous episodes, I think it has the momentum to send us into 2025 for a fantastic fucking year, followed
Yeah.
by Andor, Visions, and I forget what else, but
Hopefully, a new animated series.
yes, hopefully a new animated series for fucking sure. Well, that is everything that happened in 2024. We've been a little negative, or I've been a little negative. Scotty's
I'm
trying to be
try
the voice of reason here.
I'm trying to make this not just a bash 2024 of Star Wars because, like I said, there was some good stuff. There's some stuff that wasn't that great. The fandom was not a great place to be for a lot of 2024, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But like you said, going into 2025, I feel like we're turning a new leaf. It's been very refreshing. I think that's the
Hmm.
best way to put it. But I think it's time, since we have been a little negative, to talk about our top 5 moments in Star Wars that we
Hmm.
loved in
Yes.
2024.
Yes. So I guess I'll start.
Mhm.
Um, at number 5, I had the Acolyte episode 5, specifically the entire sequence where Jackie, Yord, they're offed, killed, um, and Kymir is revealed to be the stranger, which I don't think
Mhm.
anybody was necessarily surprised by. It was a little obvious,
Yeah.
but the way that it was executed was just still jaw dropping, still fucking fantastic. When he came out with those lightsabers,
Mhm.
fucking extraordinary. And it's a huge highlight of a show that wasn't perfect, but in my opinion, those moments were perfect. And the lightsaber choreography is the best we've gotten in the Disney era.
Yeah.
So there
Agreed.
is something that show did better than the rest.
Yeah, I agree. It was a great episode.
Yeah, absolutely. So number 4 is a little bit of a personal one. It also ties into episode 3, which we've already talked about this kind of on this podcast already. But number 4, I unretired from the Star Wars fandom. So I went into retirement. I've been a Star Wars content creator for 8 years, and after 7.5 years of being in the online fandom, making content on Instagram, YouTube, this podcast, I called it quits on all of it and honestly did not see myself coming back. As we've talked about, the fandom was just horrible. The cancellation of the Acolyte really just left a sour taste in my mouth, especially with the
Yeah.
way that the reaction was online. We saw a lot of vitriol. Obviously, there's a lot of valid criticism, a ton of valid criticism for the Acolyte, but there was also not a lot of valid criticism and a lot of just
Not
straight
at
up
all.
hate. And it felt like the cancellation was just rewarding those people, even if it makes sense from a budget perspective and a viewership perspective, it still just left a very sour taste in my mouth. And on top of it feeling like a reward for that side of the fandom, it also just felt
Mhm.
like the start of a very safe, non-risky, creativeless, boring era of Star Wars, and we still don't know if that's going to happen after 2025 and the projects that
Mhm.
were greenlit pre-Acolyte come out. We don't really know, but nonetheless, I came out of retirement. We started up the podcast again because, initially when I came back, it was like, I think that I should be allowed to have my criticisms of Star Wars and be a bit of a cunt on my podcast because we need more people that are criticizing Star Wars and talking about the issues of the franchise without making it a whole anti woke thing. I want to
Yeah.
talk about the fact that Disney is money hungry
Mhm.
and is using our nostalgia as a way to sell tickets rather than the fact that gay people and more black women are involved in Star Wars, because that's not the fucking problem and it never will be the problem, and people will see come 2026 when The Mandalorian and Grogu comes out and it's all of a sudden very white male centric and it still fucking sucks because women of color, people of color, LGBTQ people were never the issue. But I digress.
So, all that to say that I'm very glad that you're out of retirement, and yeah, it's
Yeah.
just I did a whole video about it, so I'm not gonna go on a whole spiel myself, but I agree with
Mhm.
everything you said. The racism, misogyny, homophobia,
Yeah.
transphobia, like, it's disgusting, and it did not make me a happy camper in July, August, like,
Yeah. Absolutely.
after especially after the cancellation. That was the big thing. I was like, "So we're just gonna play
Mhm.
it safe, and it's gonna be CGI Luke Skywalker and
Over and
Grogu,"
over. Yep.
and yeah, but
Nothing else. Nothing
I'm
else.
hopeful, like
Right.
like Leia, because 'cause I'm Leia. Hope,
Hope.
hope.
um, yeah, hope. Speaking of CGI characters, um, but I do want to say the biggest reason I brought this up is because, my unretirement was coming back to this podcast. That's really the only content I make. I mean, I'm back on Star Wars Twitter now, which has been nice. I've been able to make a lot of new friends on there, make some new connections, and talk about Skeleton Crew, which has been really fun.
Mhm.
But the podcast is obviously the reason that I put this on my list at number 4 because, we've come back strong. All of our episodes that we've released so far have been in the top 5 Wayseekers episodes of all time, of our
Yeah,
entire history. So I think we're doing something right. And it's been fun talking about Star Wars. And I'm in this era of my love being recharged for Star Wars with Skeleton Crew, which is my number 3. So, I'm happy that we came back.
me too.
Yes. And so, yes, like I spoiled, Skeleton Crew, specifically episodes 1 and 2 at my number 3. Because
Oh,
for me, the enjoyment of watching those first 2 episodes, having a show that I genuinely am fucking excited to see continue,
yeah.
genuinely intrigued by, we went into the series, as you can watch our previous episodes, a little bit skeptical, or I did, Star Wars Suburbs didn't seem very promising, but I have my foot in my mouth, if that's how the saying goes. Um, because it's just been good. It's just been fantastic the way that the suburbs have actually been incorporated into the story, the whole mystery of and it's really great. It's really fantastic, and I'm just hoping that they keep up this momentum for the next
Yeah.
5 episodes of Skeleton Crew because if they land, I think it's going to be my favorite Star Wars series of all time. So,
You'll see where it's at on my, Scotty Holiday Star Wars Wrapped, TV media ranking. Uh,
okay, okay.
you'll see where it's at, and I think you'll
I think
realize I
yeah.
think they'll be very similar.
Yes. Yes. And so for my next 2, I have a brand and I have to keep up with it. I'm a sucker for redemption stories in Star Wars, and we got
Mm.
2 very fantastic, very lovely redemption stories. So I contemplated on where to actually rank these two, and I think I've decided. My second favorite was
Mhm.
Crosshair's redemption in the Bad Batch season 3. Well, all throughout the Bad Batch, but
Yeah.
season 3, the first 3 episodes is where we actually got his redemption, his escape from Mount Tantus with Omega. We discussed it on the podcast. I just remember coming home from work, putting those episodes on, and my fucking fist just pumping through the air. Which, like, I wasn't recording a reaction or anything like that. I wasn't watching with
You should
friends.
have
I was
been.
by myself, by my fucking self, cheering like I'm watching the Kansas City Chiefs in the fucking Super Bowl. Watching Crosshair and Omega escape that fucking mountain. Crosshair's redemption just, I don't know, it just means a lot to me because we don't get to see very many redemption stories where the character gets to continue on and live on.
Yeah.
They usually die and then it's just a cop out because we never get to see like the atonement for, you know, the actual fucking wrong things they've done.
Yeah.
Crosshair is not that. We saw throughout that entire season him earning the trust back of the other members, which he betrayed. It was just fantastic. I I love Star Wars animation so much, and the Crosshair redemption story number 2. And
Yeah.
I don't know, did you love the Crosshair redemption story? I haven't been asking you your thoughts on. I've just been stealing the mic.
Yeah, when it comes to Crosshair's redemption, listening to you talk about it makes it a lot more special for me than when I'm
Mhm.
watching it, because to be completely honest, I'm not, like, tied to any of the Bad Batch members.
Mhm.
Maybe Tech or Echo, but I like Echo because he's, like, the odd one out. He's, like,
Uh-huh.
weird
Right.
because he's, like, he got experimented on, and then,
Mhm.
like, Tech, he was weird because he was just, like, I almost said techie, because he was just, like, this super, like, smart person, but
Right.
so after both of them basically were gone and we were left with just, oh, Crosshair's, like, the weird one, the odd one out, and I'm like,
Mhm.
"Ugh." I never found him very likable. But
Mm.
listening to you talk about his redemption definitely makes it feel a lot more special to me, and like really just focus on those really good moments and the fact that yeah, like they didn't skip any time. We got the premiere
Mhm.
and he dipped
Right.
with the premiere, and the rest of the season was just him atoning essentially and building trust back up with the batch.
Yeah.
So it was definitely really nice to see, especially come the end, like everything that he went through.
Mhm. Yeah. I'm still a little salty that we never got to see Old Man Crosshair or Old Man Wrecker. At the end, like we got to
They're
see Old
dead.
Man Hunter. No, they're not. They're not. Crosshair is gonna be in the Asajj Ventress show, and Ass Hair will be real. Yeah, talk about a 2024 memory that you tried to suppress. Ass
Ass
Hair.
hair.
But number one, like I said, I have a brand to keep up with. Barriss Offee's redemption, something I've been
Mm.
waiting for in Star Wars for a while, and we
It's
got
not
it.
just you. It's
Yeah.
not just you. We've all
Y-
been waiting
yes.
since season 5 of the Clone Wars
Yes, season
when they
5
did
of the
her
Clone Wars.
dirty.
Very dirty. Very, very upsetting the way that Barriss Offee's character went. There's a lot of implications there, but I don't know if I'm qualified enough to talk about them. But um it was nice after so long to see this happen because I remember when the trailer for Tales of the Empire came out, that 3-week period we had between the trailer and the show.
Yeah.
Um, there was a lot of worry, seeing Barriss Offee as an Inquisitor. I'm like, oh my God, they're
Mhm.
going down the fucking path that I was hoping they
They're
wouldn't.
going down a
You
path
know,
we can't follow.
literally, there's literally a Star Wars author that proposed the idea of Barriss Offee becoming an Inquisitor, and she got fucking canceled. So it was just
Deservedly.
very worrisome seeing Barriss Offee in an Inquisitor uniform. But what they did with it was fucking fantastic. Lynn, aka the fourth sister from Obi-Wan Kenobi, talk about a standout character that really shouldn't have been. I mean,
Yeah.
if you told me that going into 2024, the fourth sister would be probably my standout character for the entire year, I'd tell you you're
Wow.
fucking crazy. But, we don't know much about that character at all from the series she was in. And then she comes in and also has a redemption story alongside Barriss Offee. Seeing Barriss become the healer and then also help others out until eventually she ultimately helps out the fourth sister. You know, I loved it. I loved seeing their dynamic in the end, how Lynn carried her out of the mountain they were in.
Oh, that
It
was beautiful.
it was very beautiful. Just something I was not expecting at all. I remember tearing up and everything. So, yeah, it's gotta be my favorite, Barasafi's redemption, and that's my top 5.
Great. I can't wait to figure out what I'm gonna say when I talk about some of the same things that you haven't already said. Um, so yeah, let me get into my top 5 because I definitely feel like they're a little different.
Mhm.
Spoiler alert, I did not include Skeleton Crew just because
Mm.
it's still early, and it's
Right.
not that I don't love it, but I was
Mhm.
like, there were some other things that really, like, stuck with me. I haven't had enough time with Skeleton Crew.
Yeah. Well, you
So
gotta remember, I hated so much that it was kinda hard to pick out things that I loved, and I
mm,
had to pick on Skeleton Crew because I didn't have much to pull from.
'cause you need yeah, you needed some stuff. I'm surprised you didn't mention Ventress in any of your stuff.
Because I'm going to talk about it when you inevitably mention it, why
I
I didn't include it.
Inevitably.
It's at your number 1, I'm sure.
Well, let's start out with number 5, and I went personal for number 5,
Mhm.
and I put out a bunch of what I consider video essays this year. I put
Okay.
out the one about Jedi Fallen Order and Survivor, the Star Wars Jedi games are gay as fuck, which
Mhm.
that was probably my first video that was I would consider a video essay, and,
Mhm.
like, one that I really enjoyed making and finally felt like I got to make a video with queer themes and topics in Star
Right.
Wars, like, something I've wanted to do from the beginning, but I'm not just gonna pull and just be like, "Well, these people seem queer," and, oh, like, this felt real. So I
Mhm.
that's what I wanted to talk about, and I had a lot of fun making that video.
Right.
Probably the best one and the one that shot up into my top was "What's Next for Star Wars Animation?"
Yeah.
And that video was so much fun to make. It's my longest video I've ever put out at, like, 26 minutes.
Right.
So that I'm really proud of that one as well, and
Right.
I just had a lot of fun making it. And then we kinda talked about this already, but is Star Wars Afraid of Change? Talking about the
Mhm.
Acolyte fallout and the future of Star Wars and the fandom.
Yeah.
So, I was in my video essay game this year.
Yes, you
Maybe it was that
were.
interview we did with Parks back at the beginning of the year. I was like, "You know what? He's a video
Right.
essayist. Let me try and see what I can do."
Yes. Shout out Artur, favorite video essayist. But Scotty, you killed it with the fucking video essays this year. And I remember you working on what's next for Star Wars animation for what felt like forever. Definitely the longest production for a Scotty Holiday video.
Yeah.
Because Scotty Holiday likes to keep it within the week, specifically within the weekdays. They like
Yeah,
to keep their weekends open.
I try. Not as of late. It gets busy, but
Right. I mean, here we are on Sunday dressed as fucking Princess Leia and Chewbacca. So,
very true.
yeah.
Well, moving on to the 4th one, I feel like this one's a little more niche,
Mhm.
because it's a book, and,
Okay. A
not
book.
everybody reads the books.
Right.
But, this I guess spooky season, so, like, September and October, I read Star Wars Myths and Fables by George Mann, and I wanted
Uh-huh.
to talk about my favorite story out of the book, which was The Witch and the Wookiee. Um,
Oh,
Believe it or not,
okay.
this was one of the spooky ones.
Really?
So of course it was my favorite, and it
Mhm.
basically told the story of these pirates. They were looking pirates.
Oh,
It's
Skeleton
relevant,
Crew.
right?
And you're talking about Wookiees while I'm dressed as one. It's all very fitting. But I've never heard of this story, so please
No,
enlighten me.
it was really fun. These pirates like crash landed on this swampy planet in search of treasure. Surprise, surprise. And it's like very desolate, very scary. And they basically get lost and
Okay.
eventually end up at a cabin. And they're like peeking inside. They see all these treasures and stuff. And then, believe it or not, a woman answers the door and she's like, "Hey, are you guys lost? This forest is dangerous. Come in my house. I'll make you food. Like, you can rest." Like, she's very welcoming and whatnot. And she mentioned specifically lines about having sisters and honoring them every day. And at that point, I was like,
Mm.
"Oh, she's a night sister."
Right.
Like,
Very
this lady,
Scotty Holiday coded.
I was like, "Okay, I see where we're going now." And
Right.
at this point, I'm like, when does the Wookiee come in? Because, like, we got the witch now. And basically, what happened is like she's very nice to them. They eventually, of course, try to turn on her to take her treasure,
Mhm.
and she awakens the Wookiee who basically fucks them up. No surprise there.
Mhm.
And she curses them in the end. She lets them go, but she curses them to lose the treasure and send it to her home in the end. So any treasure they ever get going forward poofs into her house. So they never get anything. And it was just such a fun
Interesting.
twist for her to go from this welcoming character to
Uh-huh.
being like, that's not how we're gonna do it.
Right.
It was really fun, and it felt really akin to, like, the Dark Legends book, which I really like.
Mhm.
So
Okay. I I fuck with that. I vibe with that. I haven't read those stories. Actually, I read the one with the
The
Inquisitor on
Inquisitor.
the cover. Mhm. Those spooky ones. But I don't think I read the one that you're referring to,
Well,
which
you know,
isn't
it's
that part of just the regular myths and fables, the one that you're talking about right now.
yes, this is the
Mhm.
regular Myths and Fables, and then I think
Right.
Dark Legends followed that, and
Uh-huh.
then, Life Day Treasury followed that, which I'm about to start reading. I love these books so much, but it's actually because of you mentioning the Grand Inquisitor story. I don't know if it was during a podcast or we were just hanging out, but you're like, "Yeah, where the Grand Inquisitor is like a vampire or
Uh-huh.
something," and I was like,
Right.
"Oh, I forgot that existed." And
Right.
here we are now. I've got all 3 books.
Yeah. Well, there you go. There you go. That story that's the one I remember where he's like a vampire in an orphanage and he's
Mhm.
hunting and, as an inquisitor does, he's hunting down force sensitives. He finds the force sensitive at the orphanage. It's a really cool story and really shows you like the perspective
Yeah.
of Star Wars because I mean, we know the Grand Inquisitor looks scary, but like to see him depicted as like a vampire, like an urban legend within the actual Star Wars universe, because that's what these
Mhm.
stories are from, correct? As if they were like literally written within the Star Wars universe, right?
Yeah, it gets a little muddy because it's canon stories, but the
Hmm.
stories and the events of them are not necessarily canon. They're
Right,
myths or
right.
fables or legends.
Exactly. Yeah,
So,
that's
I
that's
mean,
really intriguing, really cool.
not to sound like Austin, but, I did not like the ending of that story.
Oh, the Inquisitor
Because it
one.
was because it was too happy.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh." And that was kind of the thing with myths and fables is, like,
Mhm.
I enjoyed the ones that weren't spooky, but of course I enjoyed the spooky ones more,
Right,
and that's
because
why The
that's
Witch
you.
and the Wookiee was my favorite. Yeah,
Right,
that's
it's your
me.
brand.
Yeah. Basically. Well, moving on to something we've kind of already touched on, my number 3 was not necessarily the redemption, but the return of Barriss Offee, and just
Okay.
finally learning her fate after the Clone Wars season 5, seeing her even go on a journey in this from like
Mhm.
disillusioned Jedi falling to the dark side, becoming an inquisitor, and eventually becoming a healer in the end.
Right,
And just like where she's pushed to her limit is really the only time she gives in to those darker qualities in the dark side. She essentially is fighting with the Inquisitors the entire time because she's like, this is not what I was trying to do. This is
right.
not any better than like what we had before. I just want to help people.
Mhm,
And it was such an interesting take. And you touched on it, but I was definitely like, I do not want to see Barriss on the dark side as an Inquisitor.
mhm.
That is not the fate that I want for her.
Right,
And it was just so nice to see her, especially in that last episode, just when she's talking to the couple with the child and she's saying, like, oh, the Jedi took me on these wondrous adventures and we got to help people and it was so amazing. And just hearing her kind of reflect back on these things in a positive way,
right.
even after everything that had happened, it was just so nice. I loved that for her.
Mhm.
I did not love when she got stabbed, but
Right.
we don't know.
We don't
I
know.
think she's still alive. Um,
Mhm. And
and
hopefully they
then
continue that story.
yes, because I do wanna see more Barriss.
Mhm.
Um,
And I wanna
I
see
enjoy
more Lynn. I hate to say it. I wanna see more Lynn. I don't give a fuck what you gotta say.
if
I
she
don't give a
wasn't
fuck who thinks she's boring
if
because
she
you
wasn't
haven't seen all of her.
if she wasn't redeemed, you wouldn't care about her.
Okay. Well, she was redeemed, so
Oh,
I guess we'll never know.
and another hot take about, this story specifically,
Mhm.
me and probably everybody else on the internet thought it was gonna be Vader coming to get Barriss, not Lynn.
Mm. Well,
And I think I would have actually cried if it was Vader confronting her and she sacrificed herself to let the other people run away, but we didn't
How
get
many
that.
times do we need Darth Vader going after an ex-Inquisitor? But you already love Jedi Fallen Order. We don't need to retread the same waters.
But this
Okay,
one would have
let
been
Trilla have her
different.
moment.
This one would have been different because of the history and her.
Yes.
I wanted to see a moment where Barriss realized that Anakin was Vader, and
Okay, yes.
there is
Mhm,
the brief moment that we get when he enters in Fortress Inquisitorius, and the way that she kind of like looks up after like kneeling like everybody
mhm.
else. I think that's
She
kind of
knows.
where she's acknowledging it, but
Mhm.
I wanted more. I
Yeah.
wanted to know how she felt about it. Um,
I agree
I
with you that I would have liked to see that aspect, but not at the cost of what we got with the fourth sister.
I can agree with that. I can agree with that. And you know what? We also got a non-binary Jedi. So cheers to
Period.
that.
There you go.
Now, moving to my number 2, and I think this will surprise you,
Mhm.
is I have the return of Asajj Ventress in The Bad Batch season
Wow.
3, episode 9. And like everybody's going to expect for me to have this on my top 5 of Star
Right.
Wars 2024. But the reason it is not number 1 is because it was just a taste.
That makes sense.
It was just a taste. I wanted more. Like the meme of Kylo Ren, more, like, please.
Right.
Because I loved everything that we got. I loved seeing her in this new era of her life, like post Dark Disciple,
Mhm.
but like also thinking of where she could go post the Bad Batch. Like it
Mhm.
was such a fun time. I made like 3 videos in a month talking about how I thought she survived every
Right.
lightsaber she's had. And
Mhm.
like the best Ventress moments ever in Star Wars leading up to the Bad Batch. So it was just such a fun time for me. And I feel like a lot of Star Wars fans, especially those of us who love Dark Disciple and who love Ventress.
Mhm.
But
And she's your
seeing
number
her,
one favorite character of all time.
yes.
For people that don't know, that is Scotty Holiday's favorite character. So,
Yeah.
seeing her return, I thought it would have been on the number one, but I guess not. But like I
No,
said earlier, oh, sorry, go
No, it's just that, like, as much as I loved it, like, her using the Force, like, in a positive way,
ahead.
taming the
Mhm.
Baratheon in the sea, like, that was such a beautiful moment, and I loved
Mhm.
that for her. It was so good, but
Mhm.
it was her in
Mhm.
the Bad Batch. It
Right.
wasn't the Bad Batch in the Ventress show, you know what I
Right.
mean? So
Yeah,
she
left
was
more to
still
be
kind of like,
desired.
yeah. And so I would just like more, and that's why it's not at number 1. But it was
Yeah.
so beautiful. I loved it. I loved Ventress and Omega. Their dynamic was
Yeah.
so hilarious, and it gave me all the Ventress that I needed because this is a new Ventress.
Mhm.
She's healed. She's gone through all her demons, and she is, moving on with her life from whatever
Right.
happened after Dark Disciple. But she's
Mhm.
still got that sarcastic, like, I wouldn't necessarily say pessimistic, but like very dry, very sarcastic. Sounds a bit
Mhm.
like me. Um,
Right.
and seeing that side of her still be there, I,
Mhm.
I just loved it. But
Right.
like I said, I wanted more.
Right. I mean, it's not like you're putting it at number 10. Number 2 is still high, and you're a Disney shill, so that's saying a lot. No, I'm just
Now I'm really gonna sound like a Disney show when I talk about my number 1.
Well, before you do, I just wanna say that you said earlier with the Crosshair one how, you didn't necessarily care about Crosshair's redemption, but seeing it through my eyes made you care. That's how I feel about Asajj Ventress's return.
Oh
I don't care. From my own personal perspective, it didn't touch me. But seeing it through your eyes, seeing your excitement, seeing you make 3 videos because you're so fucking excited, and then every single episode that we did of our podcast during the Bad Batch, we had to talk about what this meant for Asajj Ventress's return. Oh, is this the moment? Is this the fucking moment? For 9 episodes straight. It was all a journey, and I would do it 100 times over just to see your excitement of that again. We reacted to the trailer together, and just I already knew she was in the trailer, but I wanted to react with you, and
mhm.
it was a moment. It was a moment in
Yeah.
time.
That's definitely a moment I would love to visit again, is just that trailer release. That was
Mhm.
insane.
Yes.
Ah, such a
Well,
good time.
you can revisit it on our YouTube channel, Wayseekers Pod.
We'll put a link in the cards. But I feel like at this point I should get to my number 1, and unfortunately it's a repeat. Um, but I feel like I'm gonna sing more praises. So,
Mhm.
number 1, The Acolyte, episode 5, Night.
Okay, okay. We're exact opposite. It was my number 5 and it's your number 1.
Best lightsaber choreo since the prequels.
Yeah.
Chimera reveal, the arms, the
Oh, yeah.
cortosis, Jackie doing what looked like Clone Wars Ahsoka animation
Yes.
moves IRL, so there's no excuse,
Yeah, put the
regarded
Ahsoka
Austin.
series to shame.
Putting every live action Star Wars series to shame. It, like I said, it
Yeah.
was the best thing I've seen since the prequels. And I don't know, Daphne Keene moved so fast, and supposedly
Mhm.
it wasn't sped up. So I was just like, this girl can move.
Damn.
And
Yeah.
then unfortunately Jackie died, which was very like a gasp moment for me.
Mhm.
We had Yord die, which like that was another gasp. And he, like, the Jackie stab was really horrible, but
Mhm.
then Yord dying, not even by a lightsaber. Kymer
Right.
snaps his neck with his bare hands.
Crazy.
It was
Insane.
such a crazy episode. It was so like dark,
Mhm.
but it was still so exciting. And like,
Yeah.
this was a risk. We talked about it earlier, Star Wars possibly playing it safe going forward. They
Mhm.
killed off two of the main characters in this
In
episode.
yeah.
They were
Mhm.
not afraid to go there and go dark as fuck. We even This is where we really got like the cracks in
Yeah.
Soul too, where we saw him embrace his anger right before he almost killed Chimere.
Mhm.
It
Yeah.
was just I
Yeah.
loved it so much. It got me so hyped, and
Yeah.
like hyped and heartbroken and excited, but sad, but like craving more. Ugh,
Absolutely.
talk about something that gave me everything I needed. It wasn't a tease. I got the full package. Ugh.
Right. I just remember thinking, like watching it, I remember thinking, oh, wow, people are really going to eat their words. They're really going to come around on this show. I
Mhm.
was surprised that, it didn't get more love. But then again, at the same time, Acolyte did start to have a little bit of rise in popularity around that time, simply because of how popular Chimere became in the shipping spaces. It got all the
Yeah.
old Raylos back into Star Wars. It got, which is you know, sucks to think about now because Star Wars really had one of their most powerful fandoms kind of back and willing to trust them. And then, like, a month later, they
Yeah.
canceled the show. So
Raylos can
sorry,
make stuff
Raylos.
happen.
Yeah.
Raylos can make stuff happen, so Star Wars really fucked it up there.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Raylos, that they've burned you twice. Don't let it happen a third time. But, you know, we're being positive. So episode 5, extraordinary, and I agree with you. It wasn't my favorite moment of the year, but definitely up there in my top 5, as you guys saw.
Yes, I like that we had some overlap and that
Mhm.
we could appreciate things more because of how much the other appreciated and like
Yeah,
enjoyed. So we
yeah,
love redemptions here. I mean, you could even say Ventress, it was a redemption.
yeah.
Like,
It was
especially for those who hadn't read Dark Disciple.
exactly.
So I wouldn't call it a redemption, but you
Yeah,
could almost say that was kind of a theme.
for the general audience, it was the first time that
Mhm.
they saw her redeemed. And
Mhm.
actually, I always wish that I knew more general audience members so I
Yeah.
could ask, like, how was that for you? Like, did you know that Asajj Ventress was redeemed between shows? Because, we see her. Well, no, I take that back because in the Clone Wars, we kind of
She
start to
started down the
see
path.
exactly. Yeah, we
Let
even see her and Ahsoka team up. So what the fuck am I talking about?
Let me tell you though, because I do have general audience people that I talk to, and when I ask them these questions,
Uh-huh.
they give the most boring responses ever because we care so much, and we're like,
And they
"How did it
don't.
make you feel? Like, what did you think of that?" They'll just be
Right.
like, "Oh, it was cool. I liked her hair. That was
Right.
like she's not bald anymore, so that was cool. I don't know why she has a yellow lightsaber, but like I thought hers were red." Like those are the responses that we get.
Right.
That's what I get in response. Like, I had a coworker and I was like, "Oh, are you excited for Tales of the Empire?" And she was like, "Oh yeah, I think I'm gonna watch it." And then like the
Mm,
weekend after, I was like, "Did you watch it?" And she was like, "Oh no, I haven't gotten around to it yet." And I
right.
asked for like on a weekly basis, and then I just gave up because she never
Right.
watched it.
They don't care as much as we do. We put so much emphasis and so much care into it. So yeah, I can imagine speaking to general audience members is not not very easy. But yeah, something like with that book, like even the people in the fandom that I know that haven't read it, they still are aware of the events. So that's why I have nobody to ask. All the Star Wars people I know are also chronically online, and
Where
even if they don't read the books, they have an idea of what happened.
Oh yeah, I know what
Mm.
happened in the War of the Bounty Hunters comic. Did I
Right.
read it? No.
You don't own a single issue. Shout out Star Wars Explained.
Yep, because he's the one that's gonna let me know what happened. So thank you, Alex. Thank you, Molly. We appreciate you.
Right. Shout out. So we've talked about 2024. We're going into the year 2025. We're going to
Mhm.
continue podcasting. And so I want to talk about the things that are coming up
Mhm.
in Star Wars. So, first off, we know that Skeleton Crew is continuing. We all know
Yeah.
we want us to keep enjoying it. We want it to keep up its momentum. We want it to be good.
We're ready to learn what is so special about Atten.
Yes,
We're
I
ready
can't
to
fucking wait.
learn what's gonna be the crazy twist because something is coming,
Something's coming for sure. I
and
don't
I'm
even.
really stoked.
I'm scared for episode 5 because it always seems like episode 5 of the Disney Plus shows
Oh,
is the
it's like the
one.
reveal.
Yeah, it's like the one that really is like, holy fuck. Like, so I'm excited.
We also know that a big show that both of us are really looking forward to is Andor season 2
Fuck
coming out
yeah.
on your birthday. Happy
Mm-hmm.
birthday, Austin. We're giving you Andor season 2. I am so excited. We're getting 12 episodes again. We're getting
Mm-hmm.
3 episode arcs taking place over 1 year of
Mm-hmm.
time leading up to the events of Rogue One, like to the
Right.
moments of Cassian right before we meet him in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Just we don't even know a ton, but we've seen some footage from D23.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen some images that they've released in magazines. Like
Right.
we're getting Mon Mothma, we're getting Luthen.
Director Krennic.
Oh, how can I forget Director Krennic? Because I was gonna
Right.
say there's other people that have been mentioned. Yeah, the
How could
capes
you
are
forget?
back, bestie. Like I'm so stoked.
Right. I'm excited. I really, really hope because I've in my mind there's no way that Andor season 2 falls flat. That
Yeah,
I'm a little worried that it might just because that's my luck. But I think that there's like no way. The story that they have set up and the writers that they have, the directors, Tony
writers
Gilroy,
plural. Writers
yes,
plural. We
writers
love that.
plural. hmm it, there's not much else to say. Andor is going to be fucking brilliant, and I can't wait to talk about it on the podcast as well.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk to you about it. And we're going to Yavin, and I'm
Yes.
for some reason really excited about that, even though I do not care about Yavin up until now.
Right.
Like, I could not be more excited. But I love
Mhm.
Rogue One, and
Yeah.
like, I'm very into like the weird symbolism star chart shit like
Uh-huh.
right now in Star Wars, and I just love like the Rebel Alliance, like their
Yeah.
monitors with like the green lines and something. It's such a fun aesthetic. So I think
Mhm.
that's another reason why I really like Yavin. And
Yeah.
plus, hopefully, Daddy Antok Merrick will be in Andor season 2. Blue Leader,
We
like
can
bring
only
him
hope.
back.
I think just like Melshi in season 1, we're just going to see so many random characters that we don't even recognize, and we're going to find out on social media like, "Oh, that's that background character from Rogue One," because those are all, Tony Gilroy's friends and everything. So, they're going to be back.
Do you think we're gonna see anybody that we've seen in other live action Star Wars shows? Like, I mean, the big one, Hera Syndulla. Do you think we're gonna see her?
I don't know. I think Andor as a show is scared of aliens.
That
Like
is very true.
I don't see them putting a green alien in the show, but it's something I would be intrigued to see how they would handle something like Harrison Dula in the show. I think it would be an interesting challenge for like
Yeah.
Tony Gilroy and the other writers to keep it all within the same vibe, the same feeling because we know she's from two shows that are not taken as seriously as Andor.
and don't
Um,
have nearly as great of writing as Andor. I'm
yeah.
like,
Well,
what if they bring
Rebels.
Oh,
Rebels
okay.
is
You're
yeah.
right. I'm thinking Ahsoka. What if
Right.
they bring, like, Mary Elizabeth Winstead and as Hera and give her, like, a super fire, like, monologue, and then
Right.
next we see her in Ahsoka, and she's just, like, back to Dave Filoni's
Right.
writing.
Or imagine her makeup is like not flat. She looks amazing in
Yeah.
Andor.
She looks like she got a lift because she's
Right.
young and, like, having a good time. This was pre-Jason. Ooh, this is
Mhm.
when she was with Kanan, like, living her best life.
Right. Yeah. But I don't know. I'm kind of hoping they don't. I think it's more special when it's a character like Wolf Yularen, who,
Mm,
isn't as well known, is kind of more of a background character. It's just a nice little nod, but doesn't make you pause and be like,
yeah.
"Remember?" You know.
And we didn't even know unless we had the subtitles on. That's, like,
Exactly.
the thing for, like, us super hardcore fans. Like, "Oh my god, that's Lauren. Like, he's the
Right.
guy from on coming now on the Clone Wars series."
I love it. I love it. We also know that Star Wars Visions has a volume 3 coming in
Yes,
2025. I know we're both very excited about that because they're going back to the anime roots of season 1.
yes,
Lots of, returning studios, which means we might get
yes.
some follow-ups from season 1. I know we're both
There's
particularly excited about The Ninth Jedi
of
possibly getting a
course.
follow-up. So, how do you feel?
How do I feel? I'm so excited. Like you already said, we're going back to Japanese anime. We're getting follow-ups from
Mhm.
basically all the studios I would want follow-ups from. And in
Mhm.
all honesty, if we don't get follow-ups, I think they're just going to do another amazing standalone story. I
Right.
don't doubt any of the returning studios because when we have The Ninth Jedi, The Village Bride, and I think there's 2 or 3 other ones that I
Yeah.
also enjoyed.
Mhm.
The Elder is one of them, and that was a good story. It's
Right.
just season 1 or volume 1, excuse me, just, like, was so good, and
Mhm.
I was kinda bummed when they went away from Japanese anime. I'm great with the stories that we got because
Right.
I really loved a lot of the stories in volume 2, but I'm really excited because I think Star Wars and Japanese anime just works really well.
Yeah, because I mean, so much of George Lucas's influences with A
Mm,
New Hope and, a lot of Star Wars projects to follow, even the prequels. It's very Japanese inspired, very
mhm,
samurai film.
mhm,
So it feels nice with Star Wars going back to its roots. And it's nice to see, too, those Japanese artists, put in those references that they know
mhm.
of. You know, I love it. I love Visions and I'm excited because, like you said, even if they don't, you know, continue the stories, I'm sure they're going to make some amazing stories. And, I'm sure there's going to be one that I fall in love with a ton. There's what, nine
Oh.
chances to find one?
There's gonna be multiple. There's
Yeah.
gonna be multiple, but we'll have those ones standouts, and it'll be interesting if we have the same one,
Oh, yeah.
or if it's
It
gonna be
would.
different.
It's totally up in the air. We either think the exact same thing or we are the polar fucking opposite. There's no in between. There's no
No,
lukewarm with
no,
Scotty Holiday and Austin SWE. We either
no.
are arguing and pulling each other's hair or we're hugging
Well,
in agreement.
not my hair, but
Your
everyone
wig.
will everyone will hear our thoughts on the podcast. We will be talking about Visions Volume 3,
Yes.
guaranteed. I don't think we could not talk about it.
Yeah, exactly.
But then the big thing in 2025 is Star Wars Celebration Japan,
Yeah.
which I'm very interested to see what we're going to get from Celebration Japan. Unfortunately, neither of us will be there,
Right.
but we'll still be participating online.
Hmm.
And I think we're going to get an Andor trailer. I
Right.
think we're going to get a Visions trailer. I am
Right.
hopeful we'll get an announcement and trailer for a new animated series. I'm going to keep bringing that up until it
Right.
happens. So.
Yeah, we need the animated series, but yeah, I'm sure we'll get a ton of trailers. I'm sure we need more show announcements and movie announcements in general because
Yeah.
we don't really know what's coming after Andor comes out. We don't know what's happening for live action shows. I mean, not that I
Well,
don't want them to take a break, but
we know Ahsoka season 2.
yeah.
But I
And
don't
then
think
what?
they're really gonna have anything from that.
Yeah, I don't imagine unless well, because celebration happens in April. So like
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure that Andor trailer will hopefully release way before that, because it's
Oh,
like the same week.
you're
What's
right. What am I
probably gonna
talking about?
happen what's probably gonna happen is the audience members will see, like, the first episode or whatever.
I'm
Um
hopeful it'll be a situation like with Kenobi, where
mhm.
they'll release the first episode like
At the same time or
earlier
early. Yeah.
or like at the
Mhm.
same time. Exactly. That way we don't have to worry about spoilers. And
Mhm.
that way it doesn't feel like those of us who are not physically there aren't being punished by
Right.
exclusivity because let me not get into that. But I'm
Right.
sure everyone who's not going to be there knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Fix the fucking live stream, swag man. You
Because
wanna be
Swag
all
gonna have
involved, then we'll let you know how we feel. Make sure you're
shit.
still involved in the fandom when there's no fucking live stream.
Somebody has to let us know what's going on.
And then, of course, in 2025, we have tons of exciting things happening on the podcast on This is
Mhm.
the Wayseekers. We're going to be talking about all the shows that we previously discussed, but we also have some ideas for things that could be coming post Skeleton Crew in this new era of podcasting. Because I think
Mhm.
we're both super in love with podcasting again. I mean, here we are dressed as fucking Chewbacca and Princess Leia for the Wayseekers holiday special.
Yes.
Um, so I think it's going to be a good year for This is the Wayseekers as well.
Yeah, I agree, and to get a little behind the scenes, we started writing a list before our break of things we wanted to do, things we wanted to talk about in episodes. So we'll be revisiting that, some cool
Yes.
old ideas that we had. We'll be doing some new stuff.
Mhm.
And I think it's going to be really exciting. And I'm excited to see what we do come out with, especially because it won't just be a bunch of show coverage, which
Mhm.
I, as much as I love show coverage, I like to just have fun and talk about the things that we want to talk about too. So
Absolutely.
I'm just excited for those times where we get little breaks as well. I think it's going to be a fun year, regardless of if we get 2 shows or if we get, 4. We'll see what happens. We're going to be here
Right.
regardless.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And to end this podcast episode, I just thought of something off the top of my head, so I'm going to put both of us on the spot here with a question.
Great.
Are there any Star Wars movies or shows besides the actual Star Wars holiday special that you view as holiday movies or holiday shows within Star Wars?
Oh, this was not where I thought you were going with this. Because my
Oh.
answer was going to be Solo: A Star Wars Story. That is not a holiday movie. Oh gosh. I feel like I have answers for Halloween, but
Uh-huh.
not for like the winter holiday season. I'm trying to think. I mean, we mentioned the Lego one, which is explicitly
Right.
like
That
a
doesn't count.
holiday thing.
It's a holiday
Um,
special.
I can cheat and just say The Gathering of the Clone Wars when they go to Ilum because it's
Oh,
snowy.
okay. It's snowy. Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. I think for me, any of the sequels, but also for some reason more Rise of Skywalker feels very holiday season for me. Like a
Mm.
bad holiday movie. No.
Oh,
But no, I mean that might just be in part because the sequels all released the week of Christmas. And it was a very
yeah.
much a tradition for me to go with my friends the day winter break, the day school let out started, the day winter break started, we were going to see those movies in theaters, and so it feels very holiday to me, um, in the
I
same way
agree.
that Solo feels very summer to me, and that might be
Okay.
because it released on May 25th. What did
Yeah.
you
No.
think
Okay.
the question I was going to ask
I thought you were
was?
gonna say, is there any like Star Wars TV shows or movies that like deserve more love?
Oh,
And that's what I was gonna say.
what's
Of
that got to
course,
do with
Solo: Star Wars.
holidays?
I I don't know. And you know what? Let me read you that because for your reasoning why the sequels make you think of the holiday season, I saw Rogue One year on Christmas Day.
Oh, there you
Um,
go.
well, actually, I said one year. I saw Rogue One for the first time on Christmas Day in the
Right.
movies, and I fell in love.
Well, there you go. It's a holiday romance. Put it on Hallmark.
Oh, okay. Yep, me and Cassian.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Actually, me and Antok Merrick.
Oh,
Me and Antok Merrick.
right. Daddy and talk. Hopefully in
Daddy
Andor season 2.
Antok. Antok with the cock. No, let me stop.
Now you're sounding like Austin SWE on the podcast with all this vulgar language.
Well, I can't just leave it to you.
What are you going to do when Antok Merrick is ugly in Andor? They, like, give him a really ugly outfit. He doesn't have a mustache. He has a full beard, actually. He has a neck beard.
Ugh. No, the mustache is what sells it for me because I'm usually not into daddies, but
Well,
blonde hair, mustache, call
mhm,
me.
yeah. Well, I think we're reaching the end of the episode here. Before I pass it to you, Scotty, to send us out of here, I just want to wish all of the Wayseekers a happy holiday season to you and yours. It's been a very eventful year for the podcast. We took a long break, but we're back. We're having an extraordinary time, banger episodes. So thank you so much for the support in 2024. And I hope you continue to support us in 2025.
We appreciate it so much. But if you haven't already, make sure to follow us on social media at Wayseekers Pod or wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss any of our amazing content. Thank you all so much for listening, and may the force be with you always.